Okay, I'm outside my backyard. We'll see how long it takes until the mosquitoes come and get me. But this next video, I want to talk about Star Trek, right? I can't even do the Spock thing very well. Peace be with you. Or may the Force be with you? May the Force be with you, or whatever it's... Wait, hold on. No, that's the wrong franchise. That's Star Wars. Huh, I have no idea what Spock says, what the Vulcans say. But I saw in a lot of my comments, people talked about this scene from the Star Trek movie where Captain Kirk and Spock are going to Earth to save the whales, or get some whales, something like that. And they make a scene where they said, oh, he did too much LDS in the 60s. And I laughed at it, and so I was like, you know what? I wanna watch this movie, because I love Star Trek. Oh. It's a C5. That is a flying bus going overhead. That thing is massive. If you've ever seen a C5 ever fly through the air, you would question how something so massive is able to fly through the air. I believe that was a C5 at least. C5 Galaxy. Anywho, oh yeah, the Spock thing. I was laughing so hard because I got some comments on it talking about that movie, and I have to talk about it. I had to watch it, so I purchased it. I rented it for $3.99, and I watched it, and it was so good. I was dying laughing at so many parts. First off, the symbolism behind it, y'all. So good. I'm gonna spend this 13-minute long monologue talking about the symbolism behind the Star Trek movie, but where they're saving the whales. Because they're in the future. Some probe comes to planet Earth that's shaped like a cigar tube. It looks like a cigarette, and it's got like a light coming out and this like sphere orb coming out, and it honestly looks like a kazoo. It looks like an upside down kazoo. If you ever seen a kazoo, or a kazoo, like that thing that makes little noises, or it looks like a peace pipe that Native American indigenous tribes utilize. It looks like that, upside down, flipped upside down, the tube going through. So it's a space probe going to planet Earth, and then, but the frequency and the emission that space tube is utilizing is basically killing all life on the planet besides the oceans or whatever frequency it's utilizing. And so the Enterprise, Captain Kirk and Spock and whatnot, the crew, they get a distress signal or whatever from Earth being like, hey, no one come to Earth, because it's only a matter of time before the planet gets destroyed, because there's this probe that has come and it rendered all of our technology and everything useless. And so Spock and the crew of the Enterprise figure out that, hey, they're actually trying to communicate with the whales. It's the whale signal. Spock figures it out. I'm like, yeah, let's go, Spock. And Spock, coincidentally, is just coming back from being brought back from the dead on the planet called Genesis. Guys, do we see how cool symbolism it is, right? Genesis, literally, the book in the Bible that invokes the beginning of man, the beginning of creation, the beginning of what society or humanity, a large section of humanity, started to have awe and wonder about where we came from, the existence itself, right? It sparks all of that. And so for Spock to coincidentally be undergoing regeneration or rebirthing, basically coming back from the dead on the planet called Genesis, is cool. Anywho, this alien probe that comes, it turns out they have to go back in time to try to rescue bring two whales to the future, because by this point in time in the movie, the whales have gone extinct. And it's ironic because, again, when I was at Orfield Labs, talk about coincidences and synchronicities, y'all. This is some of the things that fall into those manners. The whales, this artist, this indigenous man that was a local artist, one of the founders of Orfield Labs, really enjoyed that artwork. And I was like, that's so curious. And I kept asking my tour guide, I was like, hey, like, why this artwork? There's this theme of the whale. Why is this whale so prominent in all these art pieces? And these are big pieces of art, like real big, like take up a whole wall or whatever. And in particular indigenous tribe, the whale is specifically symbolic to like the universe and the life cycles and the cycles of man and humankind and the universe itself. And I was like, oh, how funny that coincidentally this I'll get this comments in my YouTube videos about people talking about this Star Trek movie where they're rescuing whales. And so I got curious about it. And then curiously, even in the movie, if you look at the alien probe that is coming to go communicate with the whales, it looks like a peace pipe that they use in Native American cultures. And I'm just like, oh, the symbolism behind this. It's so awesome. Anyways, it turns out that like Spock and Captain Kirk and stuff go back in time to like whatever time period it is when whales are still not extinct. And the funniest thing that I remember from that was them talking about being like, oh, they still utilize money in this time period. We have to get money somehow. And I just love the humor on it because I always talk about, it's funny because I talk about money as in like monopoly money. I call it monopoly money because again, the concept is just very, when a species surpasses the utilization of concepts that it currently utilizes to function in society, yet still clings to them without being aware that the utilization of the concept needs to adapt or evolve, chaos ensues. And it just made me laugh so hard because if you look at the world right now, right, the concept of currency is so wild. Like the inflation just from a year or two ago, it's so ridiculous, and it becomes laughable because you're just like, wow, the concept of money has just become this whole nother dimension of leading more towards delusion and irrationality because of how it's utilized. And so in that movie, I giggled really hard because of the nuances of how, like, literally people from the future, if they were to time travel back to this time period, would perceive how culture is, how humans are interacting and doing things. And all through that movie, it was so funny with some of the things. They're like Bones, when he went to the hospital, I laughed so hard when they were looking for Chekhov, when he got hurt when he fell trying to run away because they couldn't beam him out. And so Bones, when he was looking through the hospital, he saw the woman like, I'm on dialysis and my dad's on dialysis. And I keep telling him, and I keep saying to people, like, medicine is primitive. Guys, medicine is primitive for what it can do. And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean it as, guys, what happened? What happened along the way where people stopped following curiosity and imagination and pursuing greater innovation and discovery? Because, guys, everything that's possible in Star Trek, it literally is possible, right? That's why it's called impossible. It spells I'm possible. There's a space between impossible, right? Because even in science and mathematics, they state that nothing can touch. It always goes to like infinity where nothing physically touches. So there's a space between impossible when you spell it. So it spells I'm possible. Anyways, the scene from it where Bones is walking in the hallway and the woman's like, what's wrong with you, woman? Or something like that. She's like, I'm on dialysis. And he's like, dialysis? God, yeah, this is barbaric. Like, they're doing this. Like, and he's like offended that someone's having to suffer by it. He's like, look, drink this and call me if you need anything. And he gives her a pat and walks off. And it shows her taking it. And later on, when they find Chekhov, and they just put like a little sensor on his head that emits something, and it helps him get recovered or repairs the aneurysm. And it talks about it in the movie being like, what do you mean you're going to do him? Like, because they come into the operating room and Bones is like, can you please step aside? Because the doctor's like, the only way to relieve him and save his life is to drill a hole and relieve the pressure. And he was like, please don't do that. That is barbaric and rudimentary. Please step away from the patient before you kill him. Okay? And I just giggle because when I went to a museum in Egypt, they had a skull where they showed this human being back in the ancient times had 3 perfectly drilled holes, or like almost like a centimeter in circumference on his freaking skull, 3 of them, to relieve pressure or whatever was occurring. And I was like, yeah, bro, like, no wonder he died. Y'all drilled you made his literal skull into a bowling ball. That's probably where the concept of bowling balls came in, because where the holes were drilled were like perfectly where you can put the holes for like doing a bowling ball. Okay, I did not make this up. I should look through my albums actually and see if I can find that skull that I found when I traveled to Egypt. Anyways, but it was funny. The movie talked on so many things, and I love when they went to the restaurant with the scientist, and the one that was really over nurturing to the whales. She became very attached to the whales, which is understandable. Like everyone that loves so much, they want to guide and protect what they love and cherish and care about. Y'all, I am actively participating in Nature's blood donation program while I'm out here, by the way. Meaning mosquitoes are biting me. Which, female mosquitoes are the only ones that bite. And so I allow them. I don't try to kill them anymore, because I recognize they're just trying to propagate and have children. And I'm aware of I've had so many friends that have struggled with fertilization issues and their desire to have kids, how expensive and costly it is. And I just imagine how much pain and struggle they've gone through. And so when I look at these mosquitoes, these females that are trying to bite me and just, utilize my blood to have kids, I'm just like, how crappy would that be if like my friends went to like a donation or like an adoption center, and they got just like crushed in the door, like Final Destination, like a huge weight just like splashed on them, being like, ha, we lured them in, so we got rid of the people that are, too thirsty for children. Yeah, how crappy is that? So now I don't kill mosquitoes that try to have children, because I'm like, okay, I feel you guys. I understand you're just trying to have kids, and I'm being very barbaric, just slapping y'all because of that, because of my fears. Anyways, but yeah, back to Star Trek. The scene where they're at the diner and laughing so hard when he like starts to get up and he's like, let me guess, you don't have any money. He's like, well, we don't utilize it where I come from. And you can't argue that logic, because to be quite frank, that's how I feel oftentimes when I just see people. Like, it totally captures. I felt totally seen watching that Star Trek movie. So thank you for people in the comments that recommended it to me or like commented on it, because I was no idea that it invoked that. And with so many people commenting on it, I was like, I gotta watch this. This is a red flag, a beacon signal. A red flag is good to me, right? A red flag is like, watch this. And I've had too many comments talking about watch this. And so I was like, I'm gonna watch this. And it wasn't like because I get all sorts of comments to do all sorts of things, but the comments that come off as a little thirsty and desperate, I don't necessarily buy into. But the comments that come from a place of understanding and not necessarily seeking answers, as a source of like, like this is where you must go in order to answer every question you've ever had. I don't like